Throughout modern history, every time humans have looked up at the stars, they have been unable to stop wondering if they actually are alone in the universe. For many, up there in outer space, it's where the answers we so desperately need can be found, but we're still unable to go out and look for them. Will there be life on other planets? Will there be other species in some corner of the cosmos? Will they ever come to visit us? These unsolvable riddles have rattled the brightest minds for decades. But what would you think if the answers to solving some of these mysteries were to be found on our planet? If you are ready to find out, then join us in this opportunity and get ready to know 10 extraterrestrial airships that ended up in the hands of the government, even though they never told us anything about it. Number 10. The Paradise Valley Mystery. You may not know the name Frank Scully, but in 1947, this UFO researcher discovered something that still arouses suspicion and doubts. It happened in Arizona during the year 1947, when Frank, along with several of his friends, arrived at the home of Walt Seiler to begin a planned search for alleged alien activity recorded in Paradise Valley. According to the reports they had gathered, something strange was going on in the area, but they never imagined that in the middle of their journey, right at the top of a ridge overlooking the entire area, they would encounter an army battalion. The soldiers were walking behind a very particular trail. Everywhere there were burned and destroyed trees, and they could be heard muttering about a strange aluminum dome. Frank's group stood by for several hours. They never managed to see the dome, but they did identify the arrival of several large vehicles that could have transported the UFO to a nearby military base. Number 9. The Fall from the Sky. On the night of May 21, 1953, Kingman Airport experienced an unexpected situation. Just 13 kilometers northwest of this location, an unidentified flying object fell in the middle of the area, creating great panic and confusion according to numerous eyewitness accounts of the event. Minutes later, an army convoy arrived in the area to cover the anomaly. They quickly cordoned off a perimeter and prevented anyone from getting closer than 30 kilometers. Still, intrigued citizens lingered in the vicinity for 3 long hours. During that time, a variety of military vehicles came to the area and removed a strange object that they allegedly moved to the notorious Area 51. According to leaked reports of this operation, the officials in charge gathered more than 40 scientists from various fields of science and led them to the spacecraft. According to researcher and writer Preston Dennett, one of the scientists responsible for that mission, the spacecraft fell to Earth at about 2,000 kilometers per hour but suffered no damage. The spacecraft was in perfect condition, something that explained why the 1.2-meter-long humanoid creature was still alive. Number 8. The Space Business. In 1989, a terrifying event occurred in South Africa. On the afternoon of May 7, an unknown aircraft entered South African airspace. After several efforts to communicate with the pilot, state interceptor fighters shot it down near the Kalahari Desert. However, when the military arrived in the area, they encountered something never seen before. According to information from leaked reports, the South African military discovered that far from being an aircraft, it was a craft manned by 2 creatures in skin-tight metal suits. They were no more than 5 feet tall, and according to ufologist Terry Dodd, the U.S. government made an illegal deal with a South African nation to retrieve the damaged craft. It's believed that this is how South Africa acquired nuclear technology despite the fact that international law forbids it. The subject was never discussed again, and the location and uses to which this ship has been put since are completely unknown. Number 7. The Utah Desert. Recently, the Disclosure Project has leaked a large number of alleged government documents that appear to reveal U.S. government contact with extraterrestrials. However, out of all the documents released, one event recorded in the Utah desert stands out. The exact location is unknown, but according to the notes in the reports, a military patrol managed to capture a crashed craft in the desert during 1958. Apparently, the UFO was removed and transported to an adjacent military base. And And although the testimony on the record assures that no extraterrestrials were located inside, the craft's technology offered a wealth of advanced data that, according to theories, would have been applied in subsequent U.S. military projects. Number 6. The Mountain Incident. For modern ufologists, there's nothing more attractive than declassifying documents from the past, and in this regard, the case of the Berwyn Mountain Incident, recorded in Wales during the year 1974, offers a strange incentive that few can refuse. It has taken exactly 40 years to uncover the freak accident that occurred that year when a huge explosion went off in the middle of Berwyn Mountains at 8:30 on the night of January 23rd. The explosion was so powerful that it reached a vibration of 3.5 on the Richter scale, and for researchers and ufologists like Margaret Fry, this supposed earthquake marked the exact spot where a strange UFO entered Welsh airspace hours before the first curious people approached the area. Unfortunately, the mystery of this spacecraft remains at a standstill and is kept under the strictest of secrecy. Number 5. The Real Hoax. It's common and even predictable that at the time of recording a UFO sighting, the press and society in general considers it to be a false fact. But sometimes many discover the reality even though they cannot believe it. This is exactly what happened at Aztec City in New Mexico on May 25, 1948. The account of the incident reveals a strange flying machine that was intercepted by U.S. aircraft at the busiest time in the city. No one who saw it has ever forgotten it, although attempts were quickly made to prove that it was nothing more than a simple training exercise. However, the reality was quite different. Thanks to the testimonies of some military personnel in charge of solving that mystery, it's been discovered that the U.S. military transported an unidentified flying machine throughout several bases in the region. Apparently, about 16 aliens were on this flying vehicle, and although the incident was investigated by numerous ufologists for decades, the truth finally came out recently, when the book The Aztec UFO Incident, written by Ramsey Scott, Suzanne Ramsey, and Frank Thayer, was published. Number 4. Creatures in Poland. One of the strangest alien encounters recorded in recent years occurred during the Cold War, in the year 1959, when Poland was under Soviet control. By rereading the reports of local officials, one can track down a strange glowing object that fell from the sky into the dark waters of this country. The Polish Navy was immediately given the task of locating the flying object, believing it to be an enemy spy, but the discovery exceeded all expectations. The Polish military pulled a strange dying creature out of the water. The beast didn't emit any sound, but it had a certain humanoid air, as it was dressed in a very peculiar uniform that not even the doctors were able to extract when they tried to save its life. Most reports end their descriptions at this point, leaving a big gap as to what the alien creature was, what was done with its corpse, and of course, where's the ship that fell into the water? Number 3. The Chaotic Chase. It may seem unbelievable to you, but unidentified flying objects invading the airspace of some countries tend to be really common situations. Several cases are recorded every year, although not all of them end up like the Laredo crash. The event occurred in 1948 in the state of Texas, when 2 fully armed U.S. aircraft were chasing a disc-shaped object across the sky over the city of Laredo. The chase went on for several minutes until one of the pilots crashed to the ground. Immediately, 2 government fighters joined the mission, and only then were they able to subdue the invading craft. The military personnel in charge of rescuing the aerial vehicle were surprised to discover that the pilot was a creepy alien creature, and that the craft carrying it had advanced technology, which was then quickly transferred to the military base in Texas. Number 2. Russian Battle. The Cold War wasn't an event that went unnoticed by the rest of the universe. This is what ufologists and space researchers usually state when they evaluate the number of UFO sightings during the duration of this silent contest. Never has such a large and continuous amount of alien activity been recorded, much less in Russia, the capital of the defunct Soviet Union. It's believed that on September 16, 1989, an extraterrestrial craft was brutally attacked by Soviet artillery, as it attempted to invade the airspace of the communist giant. However, far from being an immediate victory, the craft began to break up into several small, dark-colored flying saucers that fired beams of light. The battle was seen by dozens of people who were sheltering in the military square of Kama. In fact, numerous testimonies about this event describe with frightening accuracy not only the weapons and the flying objects, but also the terrible effects they generated in the environment, even destroying the electrical system and various means of communication. It's believed that the fight lasted for several hours and that the rest of the alien machines are still under the control of the Russian government. Number 1. The Varghina Incident. Latin America is a UFO oasis, and on the night of January 20, 1996, authorities in Varghina, a small town in Brazil, encountered one of the most mysterious sightings on the continent. Several of the reports recounted the denunciation of a supposedly fallen star in the middle of the jungle. The fire was consuming a large part of the plants, but when the Brazilian military arrived, far from finding a traditional fire, they encountered a flying object levitating in the middle of the burned bushes and shrubs. The authorities summoned different army units to proceed with the capture of that craft, and in less than 2 hours, different units were in charge of seizing the flying object. According to witnesses, the ship wasn't hostile. The military managed to enter it only to encounter a science fiction creature. The pilot was an extraterrestrial creature that resembled an animal more than a humanoid. Its blood was blue and it looked completely bewildered. Dozens of locals witnessed this situation, as well as a large number of firemen and policemen. The story went all over Brazil, but the authorities assured that it was only a hoax. Of course, this decision isn't strange at all. In fact, it's the most frequent method used by the world's governments to hide the hundreds of contacts they have established over the last 100 years with extraterrestrial life. Apparently, these secrets will be kept permanently, or at least until the power elites decide that society is ready to discover the truth. Are we alone in the universe? The answer could be a resounding no, but until they decide to share the truth with us, you'd better follow us as we continue to uncover new mysteries throughout the cosmos, because this is just the beginning of the great enigmas that await us beyond the stars.